The fourth floor of Axis Financial Technologies buzzes with quiet energy. Office lights glow softly against the matte finish of glass partitions. Employees shuffle in with half-open eyes and coffee cups in hand. Keyboards click like distant raindrops, phones ring politely, and the morning emails begin to flow. In the far left corner, beside the window that faces the parking lot, sits Kamran Malik, 34 years old, medium build, neatly pressed shirt, and always wearing the same charcoal gray windbreaker. Nothing about him demands attention. Every morning at exactly 8:45 a.m., Kamran enters the building through the back entrance, bypassing the reception. He climbs the stairs, never uses the elevator, and makes his way to desk 4C-17. His coffee mug reads, "Silence is strength," and silence is his armor. He nods when spoken to, smiles just enough to appear polite, and keeps to himself. He eats lunch alone, never joins birthday celebrations, doesn't follow office gossip. If he weren't on payroll, most wouldn't even notice he existed. But his work is flawless. Kamran is part of the Internal Risk Analytics Division, handling back-end data for financial monitoring systems. His job? Review flagged transactions, correct anomalies, and occasionally run simulations. To most, it sounds mind-numbingly dull. But Kamran, he thrives in it, because hidden behind the quiet eyes and the low profile is a mind sharper than a supercomputer. The Daily Mask, 8:58 a.m., Kamran logs in. Two monitors glow to life, displaying code strings, transaction maps, and encrypted logs. He types fast, effortlessly navigating a maze of financial data from dozens of global banks. To any observer, he's just doing his job. But Kamran isn't just reviewing data, he's learning the system. He knows how the internal firewalls work. He knows the blind spots in the audit trail. He even knows which monitoring software lags by milliseconds when processing offshore transfers. Every day for the past 5 years, he has been building a map in his mind, not just of Axis's internal architecture, but of the global banking infrastructure it taps into. He doesn't need admin access. He doesn't need root privileges. He built his own doorway. A custom-coded backdoor buried deep within the analytics interface, disguised as an unused script, invisible to firewalls, untraceable by security. Not even the developers know it exists, because he wrote it on company time, under company resources, logged in as a junior analyst. Genius, yes. Dangerous, even more. The real Kamran. No one at Axis knows where Kamran lives. His official address is a co-working space. His phone number routes through a digital relay. Even HR has only a scanned copy of an outdated national ID. He speaks Urdu, English, a little Farsi, and enough Mandarin to read a contract. His real name isn't Kamran Malik. In fact, even he doesn't use the same name twice. Hints of the heist. On this particular day, something is different. At 10:07 a.m., while sipping his second cup of tea, Kamran receives a flagged alert on his screen. A ghost transfer, a transaction with no source account ID and no destination IP. It's his own creation, a simulation he launched 3 years ago just to test if the system would still catch it. It didn't. Not then. Not now. Instead of flagging it as suspicious, the system auto-validated it due to an old patch update, one he personally approved as part of a performance improvement plan. Kamran smiles. Not a grin, not a laugh, just the barest flicker of satisfaction in his eyes, because this is not just a test. This is the trigger. By 4 p.m. today, he will begin the most audacious cyber heist the world has never seen. He won't need to break into a vault. He won't need to fire a gun. He won't even raise his voice. All he needs is a keyboard and 10 uninterrupted minutes. Invisible among us. As the lunch hour buzzes with chatter and food deliveries, Kamran slips out unnoticed. Not a single camera catches him looking at anyone. He walks like a man with nothing to hide, because he doesn't hide. He blends. That's his greatest weapon. By the end of the week, he will have stolen $1 billion from the global economy, scattered across hundreds of crypto wallets and ghost accounts, and no one will know until it's far too late. The genius of it isn't just how he steals it, it's how he disappears afterward, without a passport, without a fingerprint, without even a shadow left behind. It started with a glitch. Not a red alert, sirens blaring kind of glitch, just a minor inconsistency in an offshore wire transfer from a Luxembourg-based hedge fund. The destination amount showed as $19,999,996.01 on one ledger and $20 million on another. No one noticed, but Cameron did. He traced it. Turns out, this wasn't a one-time rounding error. It was a systemic lag in cross-border transaction reconciliation between two major payment gateways, SWIFT and RIPPLENET. In short, when one system closed a ledger, the other was still finalizing. For a fraction of a second, a digital shadow of money existed in both places. Cameron saw opportunity in that shadow. Instead of reporting the bug, he began studying it, mapping it, testing its behavior under different currencies, account types, and time zones. Over the course of 6 months, he created an algorithm. He called it Phantom Thread, that could precisely time microtransactions during this window. Each transfer, less than $100. Each destination, a newly generated crypto wallet. Each source, a legitimate transaction masked within real banking activity, invisible, untraceable. But Cameron wasn't impatient. He spread the theft across 43 countries, 117 financial institutions, and over 600,000 wallet addresses. He used AI-generated identities to register shell companies in Malta, the British Virgin Islands, and Nigeria. Those companies had no employees, no products, just a purpose: move money and disappear. Whenever funds reached a wallet, they were run through cryptocurrency mixers, dark web services that break down crypto into small, randomized chunks, mix them with thousands of unrelated tokens, and reassemble them into new wallets, like money laundering through a digital washing machine. From there, he used privacy coins like Monero and Zcash, which are nearly impossible to trace, to further obfuscate the trail. He hosted command nodes on the Tor network, ensuring no one could trace the data back to his physical location. For email, he used burner accounts generated by AI scripts. For access, he used remote desktop tunnels from abandoned data centers in Eastern Europe. He even routed traffic through hijacked satellites in the Indian Ocean, a trick he learned from an obscure hacker forum. Nothing pointed back to him. Not his desk, not his IP, not even the company. He became a ghost in the system. The billion-dollar threshold. It wasn't until month 11 that the total skimmed amount reached $987 million. Cameron paused. He knew the final stretch was the riskiest. Any anomaly could alert global regulatory systems. So he designed a final run. An orchestrated ballet of 10,000 transactions over 48 hours, each under $150, each using an independent script and time delay. And it worked. By the time the systems even hiccuped, the last coin had already passed through 6 layers of mixers and landed in a cold wallet stored on a custom USB drive, one that Cameron built himself. No wireless, no cloud, no internet, just 3 grams of plastic holding $1 billion in pure digital currency. He placed it inside a hollowed-out book in his apartment, right between The Art of War and The Psychology of Deception. No security breach was flagged. No whistleblower suspected anything. The system ran clean. Too clean. And Cameron? He went to work the next morning, logged in at 8:58 a.m., and smiled when his manager walked by. Because no one ever suspects the quiet guy in the corner. It was a Friday morning when Kamran Malik didn't show up to work. No out-of-office email, no sick leave request. Just an empty chair and a cold mug of tea on his desk, as if he'd stepped away for a moment and never came back. At first, no one noticed. Kamran was quiet, invisible, even when present. It wasn't until HR tried to contact him about a routine ID verification that someone walked over to his workstation. What they found sent a ripple through the entire building. His desk was empty, not just cleared, wiped clean. No papers, no coffee mug, no sticky notes. Even his office-issued laptop was missing. Only a single sheet of paper remained, neatly folded under his keyboard. It was a letter, but not a confession, not an explanation, just a riddle. What travels farther than light leaves no shadow and is never seen twice in the same place? KM Security was immediately called. It tried to trace his last login. There wasn't one. CCTV was pulled from the night before. Incredibly, there was a 15-minute blackout in the camera feed from 2:11 to 2:26 a.m. Power records? Clean. Server logs? Normal. Access card swipes? No record of Kamran entering or leaving the building. Not even the janitors noticed anything unusual. It was as if he had simply disappeared into thin air. Global panic. By Monday, the financial world began to feel tremors. A senior officer from Axis Technologies leaked suspicions of internal fraud. Over the weekend, quiet alerts went out to multiple governments and financial watchdogs. One by one, scattered anomalies were discovered, microscopic losses across borderless transactions, hidden deep in the infrastructure, so subtly crafted they almost passed as normal system decay. But when pieced together, a terrifying realization surfaced. Over $1 billion had gone missing, and no one had seen it happen. Interpol was activated. Cybercrimes divisions from the US, UK, Singapore, and Switzerland began parallel investigations. Kamran Malik's file, thin as it was, landed on the desks of men who usually dealt with terrorists, warlords, and hostile nation-states. And yet, for all their technology, all their expertise, they found nothing. No passport exit stamp, no plane ticket, no ship manifest, no bus terminal footage. Kamran Malik had ceased to exist. Even his national ID was flagged as a forgery, an expertly constructed ghost identity planted over 7 years earlier. The address on file? A demolished building in Karachi. His emergency contact? A disconnected number traced to a dead SIM card. Every trail led to dead ends or looping misdirection. A ghost's goodbye weeks passed. A second letter surfaced, this time sent to a private P.O. box owned by a former colleague. Handwritten, no fingerprints, no postage records. It read, "There are doors in every system. Most people use keys. I built tunnels. The money never existed. The numbers only obeyed me. I am not a thief. I am just free. No threat, no demand, just a signature at the bottom. The ghost." Some agents believed he had died. Others thought he had plastic surgery and fled to a rogue state. But those who truly understood the depth of his plan knew the truth. Kamran hadn't run away. He had prepared to vanish long before the heist ever began. And now he existed everywhere and nowhere at once, just like his riddle. Flashback. 2 years earlier. 2 years before the heist. A dark room lit only by the bluish hue of multiple monitors. Kamran sat, surrounded by screens displaying grainy footage, faces, passports, border patrol routines, and satellite maps of shipping lanes. This wasn't hacking. This was construction. Brick by digital brick, he was building the one thing harder than stealing $1 billion, a clean escape. Kamran knew from the start, stealing the money was the easy part. Vanishing from the world afterward, that took years of precision. He started by wiping his true identity from every system that mattered. Public records were manipulated through old vulnerabilities in outdated government databases, vaccination records, school certificates, tax entries. All were replaced with a string of false histories, all leading back to a man who never truly existed. Adil Rahman, born in Rawalpindi, now a freelance software consultant with a spotless record and no known family. Next, he tapped into the black market web, not through the dark web, but through encrypted channels hidden in plain sight, hijacked WhatsApp relays, compromised satellite uplinks, and repurposed ad tech networks. These weren't just contacts, they were gatekeepers. Through them, Kamran secured a forged biometric ID registered in a foreign country's asylum system, a deep-fake video of himself boarding a fake flight to Istanbul, complete with real-time flight data, time-stamped metadata, and even airport CCTV loops, a shipping container booked under a shell company, loaded on a vessel bound for East Africa. No borders, no stamps, no name to flag, just cargo. The day of disappearance. The day after the final transfer, Kamran returned home one last time, a rented apartment under a fake name with no Wi-Fi, no neighbors, and no landlord records. He wore gloves, carried nothing. Even his clothes would be burned before the night ended. He opened a floor panel beneath the sink. Inside, a tightly sealed hard case containing the USB wallet with $1 billion, an unregistered phone, emergency local currency, and a retinal contact lens with forged biometric patterns encoded. At exactly 2 a.m., he walked 3 blocks to a small loading garage near the docks. A man was waiting, paid in Bitcoin, blind to the purpose. Kamran entered the container. Inside was a week's worth of supplies: air filter, food, a burner laptop, and a satellite GPS he'd hacked to transmit false location data in case the ship was scanned. The doors shut. Silence. Darkness. Then movement. The container was lifted, stacked, and secured aboard the Mercator Dawn, a Panamanian-flagged cargo vessel that would cross 2 oceans and dock in Mombasa, Kenya, a port notorious for weak customs enforcement, a new face, a new life. By the time the ship reached Africa, Kamran was no longer Kamran. He had shaved his head, lost 10 pounds, used skin pigmentation agents to subtly alter his tone. The retinal lens gave him access to his new identity, a humanitarian worker named Elias Farid, who had recently returned from disaster relief missions in Yemen. At customs, no red flags were raised. His passport, fingerprints, and iris scan matched records filed through a humanitarian database he himself had breached months prior. He smiled at the officer. He was polite, calm, and just like that, he stepped onto foreign soil, reborn. Now, in a quiet coastal village, Elias spends his mornings in cafes and his nights rewriting his future, while the world still searches for a ghost. Because Kamran didn't escape like a man. He disappeared like a myth. It's been 9 months since Kamran Malik vanished. Since the global economy quietly lost $1 billion with no suspect, no motive, and no warning. Governments won't say it out loud. But behind closed doors, there's a silent war raging to find him. Interpol launched a global red notice. The NSA built a task force of crypto forensics analysts. Private bounty networks, from black market syndicates to shadow governments, put an open reward of $10 million on his head. Every airport scan, every customs check, every blockchain ledger is now filtered through Project GhostNet. And still, nothing. Because Kamran isn't hiding in the shadows. He's hiding in the light. Hiding in plain sight in Lisbon, a man named Rafael Silva works in a quiet co-working space, building machine learning models for a fintech startup. Clean-shaven, speaks fluent Portuguese, no criminal record, pays taxes. In Kuala Lumpur, a Syrian refugee named Nabil Rahmani runs a non-profit teaching coding to displaced youth. His smile is disarming. His background checks out. In Buenos Aires, a French expat named Luc Delacroix lives in a modest apartment and teaches cybersecurity at a local university. All of them are Kamran. None of them are Kamran. They are masks he wears, faces he borrows. He never stays more than 40 days in one location, never uses the same ID twice, and always lives among people who don't ask questions. Kamran doesn't just blend in, he disappears into the noise of modern life. The world watches, he listens. He watches his own manhunt unfold on global news. Articles speculate he's dead. Some say he joined a rogue nation. Others whisper that he was a whistleblower who changed his mind. Kamran scrolls through the theories from a nondescript tablet in a Johannesburg cafe. He smiles. The world is chasing a man that no longer exists. They don't realize Kamran Malik was never real, just a code name, a design, a performance. But somewhere deep inside, a different question haunts him. What now? He has wealth beyond imagination, freedom, power. But legacy? Not yet. The final twist? A clue. Left behind, 3 weeks ago, a programmer in Tallinn, Estonia discovered something buried inside an old GitHub repository used by Axis Financial Technologies. It was a snippet of code, obscure, dated, obfuscated in a dead language, Fortran of all things. It looked harmless, but when decrypted, it unraveled a breadcrumb trail, a riddle, a cipher, a hidden message signed simply, "If you found this, you're either me or better." The map is not for fools. The key is not money, it's control. The ghost that code has since gone viral among hacker circles. Dark web forums now pulse with theories. Some believe it's a blueprint for the next billion-dollar theft. Others think it's a puzzle to locate Cameron himself. But the most dangerous idea? That someone else will follow it, whether to stop him or to become him. The ghost lives on Cameron, now going by a new name in a country where no one looks twice, sits on a bench beneath a tree, feeding breadcrumbs to pigeons. A child runs by laughing. A mother walks past him, nodding politely. He's unremarkable, forgettable. But in his pocket is a USB drive, not with stolen money, but with something far more valuable, the next version of Phantom Thread, refined, faster, completely decentralized. He doesn't plan to use it, but he knows someone will. Because legends don't disappear. They echo. And in a world run by systems and data, the most dangerous weapon is the man who understands both.